Whakalofa lahi atu to all of the auditors and the audience who are listening to us today. We are celebrating the Niue Language Week. And for that matter, I have invited our guest for our speaker for today is Leki Jackson-Bourke. Leki has been very busy. He's got a very extensive biography, and I'm just going to read to you some part of what he has achieved and done. So Leki is a Tongan, Niuean and Samoa descent, and is a graduate of the Pacific Institute of Performing Arts and an emerging Pacific artist who has toured both nationally and internationally with New Zealand companies that included massive companies, The Brave in Hawaii Tour 2015, The Factory by Kila Coconut Crew in Adelaide Cabaret Festival in 2014, and also Edinburgh Fringe Festival 2014. My name is Pilo Tome by Vela Masutaute, Niue Art Festival 2015, and Leki received the 2015 Auckland is My Playground Award for Youth Leadership in Performing Arts awarded by Auckland Council. Aside from acting, Leki is a playwright, producer, and choreographer. In 2017, he was named Best Newcomer at the Auckland Theatre Awards for a parody, Meet the Fakas. In 2019, Leki was emerging Pacifica writer in resident at the International Institute of Modern Letters and recipient of the Creative New Zealand Emerging Pacifica Artist Award and the Creative New Zealand Todd New Writers Bursary Grant. In 2020, Leki featured in Pacific Dance New Zealand's Transform series as a Niuean dance choreographer. So, dear audience, please let's just welcome our dear guest, Leki Jackson-Bourke. Leki, I hope this is a right summary of your bio. And if you wanted to reply to this, please go ahead, Niuean and English if you wanted to. Thank you.
Sure. Whakalawhalahi atu, kia toi, ena, whakaue, whakaue ke uina mai. Thank you for inviting me to speak today. And greetings to all of our audience who's listening from wherever you are, watching from wherever you are. Whakalawhalahi atu, matakainanga niwe, pihia foki ke tau atu motu. Whakalawhalahi atu ke motolo osi ke ngohe iki hato tolu ko Yesu Kiriso. Yeah, my name's Leki. I was born here in New Zealand, in Auckland, New Zealand, and raised in and here in Auckland. My parents are from, my dad was born in Tonga, my mum was born in Niue, and my mum is also half Samoan. My parents come from the village of Hakupu in Niue, and that's how I'm connected to the Niue culture through my grandparents on both sides. So yeah, very happy to be here today to represent myself and my family, and yeah, where we come from.
Thank you very much, Leki. What I wanted to do first is just to look at your upbringing, because I was wondering, where did you learn your Niue, and where was it through your grandparents, or was it through your parents, or maybe through your contact outside of the family? So can you just tell us a bit more about how you came to learn your own native language?
Bit of a roller coaster. There's not one answer to that. It's a very complex, layered story. But I guess in a basic answer, I learned a little bit of Niuean when I was a little kid. I lost it as I got older, and I absolutely hated it when I was a teenager. Wanted nothing to do with the Niuean culture. Then, as a young adult, I went to study performing arts, and that's where I reconnected with my culture. And I started to relearn my Niuean language again. So I guess I didn't really have like a strong upbringing in Niuean. I sort of did. I did it. There's I used to do the White Sunday at our church at PIC Newton Church in Auckland for the Niuean service. And that was probably my only exposure to the Niue language. My parents are both fluent speakers, but they don't use Niuean in the home. They conversate in English. So they didn't really teach me and my siblings how to speak Niuean. So I kind of like, it was a little bit of forcing myself to learn it as I was a young adult, like in my early 20s. And I did that through two ways, mainly performing arts and then going back to the Niue church and being friends with all the old people at the church because they just speak. That's probably the place where Niuean is spoken the most here in New Zealand and Auckland, for me anyways, exposure-wise. So that's how I picked up Niuean. Still not perfect, but I'm still learning as we go along.
Excellent. So church has been one of the places that you would have picked up and maybe reconnect with your Niuean language. That's right, okay? Okay. So now,
yeah, absolutely.
Now I want to do. I want you to describe, because I know you are into choreographer and dance and music, and I want you to describe to me those two items that you put together, so that the audience and the people watching our talk have an idea. So I'm going to share this picture with you, and you can tell me what they do and when do you use them. So here it is. Can you tell me more about this? Did you say nafa?
Yeah, that's a nafa. It's a drum. That's a very small one. They range in size. They can be small, they can be big, they can be long. Basically, that is used to keep the tempo of like a song. We use that in Niue. It's a wooden slit drum. It's found commonly across the Pacific. We use it in multiple cultures in the Pacific. Yeah, in Niue, it's a stick and a piece of wood. You bang it together, it makes a noise, and it helps keep the tempo of the song. And they range in like pitch as well. Pitch and I've got that one here actually through the magic of television. We got it right here. Yeah, that's a very distinct, like kind of sound day. And as I said before, they range in different sizes. So yeah, in Niue we call that a nafa.
And how would you call the sticks?
I don't even know what we call the stick. That's a good one. I'll find out. Word for the stick.
Well,
all I know is this is the nafa. We use the stick and we.
Yeah. Probably the same as in the Polynesia, maybe rakau or ra'au. That's what we have anyway in Tahitian. Well, it's quite interesting that I have gone through a bit of your videos and where you are showing how the moves are when you perform. It's a mix, isn't it? It's a mix of with the feet, with the hands, and those different moves. You can explain them. So I was just wondering, how do you use them in terms of the Niuean language? How do you use your singing, your dance, your music as a tool or as a way of keeping the language alive?
Sure. What God, great question. I think there's this common perception in the Niue culture that the Niuean language is just about words. Like Wangahau Niue is like dependent on the word, which I feel is like that's not entirely the truth. Our language lives and breathes in other different forms. It lives through our art forms. It lives through our performing art. It lives through our like lolonga Niue, taulolonga Niue, our Niuean songs, koli whaka Niue, our Niue style of dance. All of those are different forms of language as well. And so for me, I really love performing arts. The reason I came to love Niuean arts is because I went and learned Samoan and Hawaiian first. And then it brought me back to my Niue roots where I was able to transfer the skills I picked up in those cultures in my Samoan culture. Also stuff that I learned in the Hawaiian culture when I went to Hawaii. Then I came back to New Zealand and then I fell in love with like Niue dance again. I had some exposure to Niue dance as a kid. And I've always kind of like been exposed to the songs through church and through our village and family stuff. And then generally I just like music as well. So all of that combined led me to want to research Niuean music and Niuean dance, and I did that when I was a student at performing arts school. I chose to focus on Niue song and dance in my degree, and I interviewed a lot of people. I learned a lot of songs. I built up my repertoire over the years, and I pretty much from there I learned how to started out because I couldn't speak fluent Niuean. I steal the lines from other songs and put it together. So I would take one line from the song, one line from that song, one line from that song, and then it'll make the message. So I think for Niue language to be interesting for young people, we have to make it accessible for them, and we have to package it in a way where they're not intimidated and they can access it, and they don't feel shamed for being born in New Zealand and not being able to speak it, because we want people to learn it. But Niueans, as a people, we're also greedy people. We don't like to share all of our resources and all of our stuff, and that goes all the way back. I'm sure that's the same in a lot of Pacific cultures. Very like gatekeeper culture. We like to in Niuean we use this word. It's called lamakai. Lamakai is like where you're like very selfish and greedy with your resources, and
Right.
a lot of people are lamakai with their stuff, and a lot of people that I've worked with can have that attitude, and that's why we're not kind of like progressing anywhere in terms of our Niuean culture being alive. But my whole soul and like heart and efforts go into my performing arts. I use the songs and the dances to help young people to connect with their culture, because that's how I fell in love with my culture. And also the Bible as well, using the Bible and reading the Bible in Whangahau Niue.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Now, talking about song and music, we're going to look at the, you just performed with your cousin, the little song about Niue. So I'm going to look at this, and you're going to tell me what it's all about once we have, you have done it. So I'm going to share with you your, this is a small, snippet. So here we go.
Whakalahi atu kia matolo osi kei ngohi iki haka kolu ko Yesu Kiriso. Mai loa ngā mutolu ne nā kei loa ko haia ko i ngā haaku ko pule leki atoa. So kimi Leki Jackson-Bourke, hawa he maanga ko maangele, ka nawa i okalana nisila. Tau mamatoa haaku, o mai he maanga ko whiani haku atua. Homofulu mataha, ua homofulu mataha e tatau haaku he moi. Tuo. Wala ia ke mutorosi ko i ngā haku ko Niue Jackson, mo he tau maanga ko haku patua mo talau mo alofi, ana kupo e maanga tutaha ko otahuhu ia pala. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're just going to perform a little song for you. Greetings to all our Niuean people who are listening and watching today. Tō uhu atu a maua. E taha lolongo, koe lolongo nei, koe lolongo tā me, ne whasi ai hāku tau lafu. Niue Haaku Motu Fakahele, ko Niue Nukututaha, motu sepua matang kare moana, letu masipika. Niue Haaku Motu Fakahele, Leki Motu Tukuna ituma itona kahima, tukuna mimo iwe tekani. Niue Haaku Motu Fakahele, ko Niue Nukututaha, motu sepua matang kare moana, letu masipika. Niue Haaku Motu Fakahele, Leki Motu Tukuna ituma itona kahima, tukuna mimo iwe tekani. Tutu lagi luna, pasi salulima, kekala pia. Sofi maue, apa kamu tersuka kona mai alam salwane kuatang itu kuatariwe. Bili kano emansangi kota manulele nepelele pulangi kota rupe kololo mai lumai akau
This is such a nice tune, a nice song. It's very there's a lot of emotion in there, you know. But I can tell it's about Niue because you seem to be remembering, you know, your place, your island, thing like that, nostalgia. Can you tell us more about this song, please?
Yeah, that's a song that me and my cousins wrote for. What did we write it for? We were in Wellington, and we there was this one night, and we all just started writing the song, and then we ended up using it for our family reunion. So it's what you call a lolongo fiafia or lolongo tāne. It's like it's a happy song. It's a song that you dance to. So there's actions that accompany the words. So the words are very descriptive. They're written about the nature of Niue. They're written about it's like the overall message, and the thing is a message to young people to hold on to their culture, because that's what's going to get you through life. That's kind of the main message of the song. So the first verse is structured all around the birth of Niue, and like, so you'll hear words in it like it says ko Niue Haaku Motu Fakahele, like Niue is my blessed island. Niue Nukututaha, Niue is the island that stands alone. Motu Sefua, that's another word for Niue. It's an old name. It's a hingoa tuai, an old name of Niue. And Matamaka he moana he atu Pasifika, that's like saying we're the rock in the ocean, in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, because Niue is referred to as the rock. So all of these are listing. So in English, that writing technique is called listing, where you list like to create an effect. And so what we've done in Niuean is listed all the different names of Niue to give a nostalgic feel to the listener, to help the listener to realize like, oh, Niue's got so many different names and so many different, like, you know, Niue is such a like beautiful place, but it's not just beautiful, it's also ugly. And it's not just ugly, it's also rough. And it's also like there's so many different textures and nuances to Niue itself. And so that whole verse we're trying to capture that. And then we stole, like, this is a line I stole from another song, Niue Haaku Motu Fakahele. This is the island where I was born. Even though I wasn't born there, like my spirit was born there. So it's metaphorically speaking, it's talking about this whole message is kind of like saying like, this is who you are and where you come from, and don't forget your awaneke nimo tau tupuna I tuai. Don't forget the people on the path who came before you, because they're the reason why you're here. Tonaka nimo tukulangi ko Niue Fekai. I will never ever forget my Niue Fekai. Like Niue Fekai is another word for another name for Niue. That's what the whole first verse is about. And then the chorus is kind of just like telling like young people, stand up, tutula kilunga pasipasi taulima, stand up, clap your hands and shout and hold on to your culture, because that's what your ancestors have taught you. And verse 2 is basically, in a nutshell, it's painting a picture about the beauty of Niue through nature. So havili whanau e matangi, talking about the wind, tau manulele, ne felele he pulangi, the birds that fly in the sky, tau lupe ne kololo, mai I lunga he akau, koe maota. So it's talking about the pigeon, specifically that bird, because the pigeon makes a specific noise. It goes koro, koro. So that's why we call kololo. Like it makes us noise when it's on top of the tree.
Yeah.
And so it's like all of these are iconic features of Niue. So we put it in the song so that it gives you the feel of Niue, and also just what these different like animals and like what nature represents and stuff. I hope that that's kind of like that's a generic overview of the song.
I like the way you use. I like what I was just saying there. I like the way you use nature. You use remembering where you come from. I guess you might have talked to other people about Niue. I've never been to Niue, but I mean it gives some.
Oh, you poor thing! You need to go to Niue once it's
especially with close with Tahiti as well. So there you're right. That's a very good song, and hopefully we'll get from you the translation in English, so we can have people reading it and maybe wanting to understand a bit more, and also some of those ideas and concepts we were talking about, remembering your ancestors. Some of this that would be nice to add to those, for people if we wanted to know how do you say ancestor, how do you say dance, how do you say music in Niueans, some things like that, just to give people or to give our audience and listeners an idea of how to use the language. So listen, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you. The young generation, to try to carry the idea of the language. We're doing the language because we want people to jump onto the language wagon and then try to express yourself through music, through dance.
Yeah, my message to the Niuean community is to remember the role that our performing arts and our arts has in this conversation of language and culture. Because often we as artists, we get pushed to the side, and then all the academics come through, all the doctors and all the people from the universities come through, and with all the amazing fancy titles, and then they talk about this new book that they wrote and all these like amazing things which are awesome and amazing. But just remember, our ancestors never had that. Our ancestors sung and danced their culture and wore it on their skin and on their bodies and clothing. And the art is what has kept our culture alive for all these years. And I feel like the Niuean people need to know how important that is, because we don't value our arts. It's a very sad state. And I believe that's part of why our language is in the state that it is, because we're using all these colonized Western frameworks to try and rejuvenate all this energy into learning our language. But like my mom and dad, they didn't go and sit in a class and learn Niuean from the teacher. They learned it by living it and breathing it. And so that's a message I want to encourage Niuean people. Don't get offended. We all have our part to play in keeping that alive and in doing that. And no one's perfect. I'm not perfect myself. But I really do hope that we encourage more use of our arts. We need to sing more, and we need to dance more, and we need to celebrate being Niuean more, because it all feeds in. It's like spiritual. It's soulful, and it's much bigger than any of us, especially here in New Zealand with our language stats. Like Niuean people know our language is not in a good position at the moment. And I get very hearty when I speak on this, because it's gonna affect my generation when the elders are dead. Once they're gone, then our culture and our language is gone. If we don't do anything, we have to do something now and not wait for them to die. Which is why I keep writing songs and why I keep sharing my stuff. And if there's anything that I have out there, please feel free to use it.
I understand your activism for music or for language, Niue, or for dance, because we are in the same state as well, for the Tahitian language. So we all have to play our part, we all have to fight our good fight, for the language to revive and to be to stay alive. And you're right, the young generation, they have the key to that. So here we go. Thank you very much, Leki. Whakaalofa lahia too once more. And yes, Niue must be a destination for all of us to go and to visit. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Whakawelahi, o tolo, koe nei au, manuina